Now, one very common question, one very common worry when it comes to GMAT Quant is, bhai, how do I answer a question within 2 minutes? 2 minutes, where did I get this figure from? Overall, GMAT Quant is 31 questions, and we get 62 minutes to do those 31 questions. So that's how the average time comes out to 2 minutes per question, the average time. Right? So many times I've seen people who've been doing GMAT for a while, they treat this as kind of the benchmark, 2 minutes per question. I have to get. So first, let me define a term, efficiency. What do I mean by efficiency? Basically, an approach is efficient if I have high confidence in it. That's one requirement. An approach is efficient if there are not a lot of steps, if there are a few steps. And an approach is efficient if it's fast. Now, fast, not rushed. There's a big distinction between these two terms. I'll talk more about this in a second. And then efficiency also is not about, this is a smarter way of doing things. This is a nice mathematical way. One formula, one step, I got my answer. Nice. First and foremost requirement of something being efficient is you need to have high level of confidence. If we don't have high level of confidence, then no matter how quick something is, how few steps something might be, then it's not efficient. So we need to build this overall efficiency. And that's an objective. How do we develop this efficiency? How do we get efficient? How do I become more efficient? Right? That's the question. Basically, how to get to 2 minutes per question. That question translates into, how do I become more efficient? And the answer to that is to be inefficient first. There is no shortcut. There is no quick fix that suddenly from wherever you are today, suddenly you get to a stage where everything is sorted. No. We need to be inefficient first. Right? It's a journey. If I want to build stamina, if I want to become a better runner, a faster runner, then I need to go through the entire journey of a stage where I'm struggling, but a little bit, struggling a bit less, and then improving, but still maybe struggling a little bit, and then improving. Eventually, I get to the objectives, the timeline I've set for myself, the speed limit I've set for myself. Same thing here. We need to be inefficient first. So what that translates into, first of all, anyway, is no time limits while you're solving questions. No time limits. If a question takes you 30 minutes, by all means, spend 30 minutes. So another corollary here is, whenever you're practicing questions, this is true for verbal as well as quant, whenever you're sitting down to practice questions, never put a limit on the number of questions. Okay, today I'm going to do 20 questions. Okay, today I'm going to do 50 questions. Don't do that. Because you don't have unlimited time. Right? There would be some constraints. You might have something else to do, or anyway, it might be time to sleep after, whatever it is. So you'll have a constraint of time. So go by time. Today, I'm going to do quant questions for 2 hours. That's it. If you're able to do 20 questions in 2 hours, great. If you're able to do 2 questions in those 2 hours, that's fine also. No worries at all. You need to give yourself the license to be inefficient first. Taking longer than what you need to take in the exam is a part of the learning process. There should not be any guilt associated. There should not be any negative feeling associated. It's absolutely fine. It's needed. 2 things here. What are we doing? What do we need to do in order to develop, to improve? One is to be able to do the same things faster. Basically, let's say if we're talking about talking in English or talking in a foreign language, then we talk about fluency, right? He's more fluent, he's very fluent because he's had more practice, right? So one is anyway fluency, which comes through practice. But then it's not just about blind practice. I'll just blindly do questions. It's about active practice and then engaged practice in which we're always trying to learn and understand what we can do to improve. Let me expand on this a little bit more. Let's say you're doing a question, and I had this experience with a student recently, that the student took a long time to just solve a quadratic equation. There was a quadratic equation. I remember the equation also. X square minus, no, I don't remember it. Minus x minus 6. This was the equation, equals 0. This was a part of the question. This wasn't the question, right? There was a lot of things before, there were quite a few things after. And within that, solving the question, there's one step of creating this equation and getting the values of x. They were dealing with apples or something, so x couldn't be negative. Therefore, there would have been only one value. All that was fine. The student did eventually get the answer, but it took him quite a while to figure out the roots of x from this equation, right? The 2 roots. It took the student quite a while. He did get the answer eventually. So, but then this was kind of a roadblock. This was the stage which in our private session I identified and I recommended that he needs to work on getting better at solving quadratic equations and basic algebra. Because if you're struggling with the building blocks, then anyway the overall structure will struggle with, the overall question will struggle with. We might eventually get to the answer, but it won't be fluent. It won't be cut, done. Right? We are kind of getting stuck in the middle. So then, now this is on you. You need to figure out what steps, what micro steps within your overall solution are you getting stuck with, and then you go and work on those specific things, maybe beyond GMAT questions also. For example, if you find you're not very good at quadratic equations, go to Khan Academy, go through the whole content on quadratic equations algebra and solve questions. And that's not only is it okay, it is required. Right? Because if you feel, now I'm doing GMAT, I'm not going to go back to all those grade 7, grade 8 things. But if you are not very fluent with those things, anyway, and those things that are being used as building blocks, anyway, then overall, you will not be able to become faster. And as things get more complex, things will get jumbled in your minds. So one way to improve efficiency is to do the same things that you are already doing, but faster. So become better at them. And then basically you're taking steps to become better. It's not just about, okay, I'm going to continue practicing GMAT algebra questions and things will get sorted. If you find a particular thing, then you work on that particular thing separately. Second thing here is to do different things. One is to do the same things faster. The other is to do different things. Now, what do I mean by different things? For example, typically the most common approach for many students with many questions is algebra, creating an equation and solving. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But then to restrict ourselves to just algebra, that is wrong. Right? Many times the way to get to that 2 minutes per question is not just about, okay, let me do the same things faster. Many times it's about, let me do things differently. So that's where flexibility that I talked about earlier comes in. Many times we'll work on developing multiple approaches, getting out of our current comfort zone and trying to look for different approaches, maybe looking for a logical solution, and maybe looking at the options to figure out what can be done. Essentially, doing things differently. So we'll work on both these things simultaneously. Whatever I know today, how can I get better at that? And what new things can I learn? That's the way to get to eventual efficiency. I don't care about whether I'm efficient today or not. I need to be inefficient today to eventually get to that efficiency.